आप्यायन्तु ममाङ्गानि वाक्प्राणश्चक्षुश्रोत्रम् अथो बलमिन्द्रियाणि च सर्वाणि सर्वं ब्रह्मोपनिषदं माहं ब्रह्म निराकुर्याम् मा ब्रह्म निराकरोत् अनिराकरणमस्त्वनिराकरणं मे अस्तु तदात्मनि निरतेय उपनिषत्सु धर्मास्ते मयि सन्तु ते मयि सन्तु। ॐ शान्तिः शान्तिः शान्तिः। ॐ सहना भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यङ्करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ॐ शान्तिः शान्तिः शान्तिः। So what have we studied so far? That we can sum it up in the following way. Out of Sat, existence, Sat cannot come. Why? Because Sat is already there. It's already there. So nothing, out of Sat, Sat cannot come. Then out of Asat, non-existence, Sat again cannot come. Why? Because out of non-existence, how can Sat come? Not possible. And then out of Asat, Asat cannot come. Out of non-existence, can non-existence come? Let's think about it. Obviously not possible. So out of existence, non-existence cannot come. No. Out of non-existence, non-existence cannot come. Out of existence, existence cannot come. And then finally, out of non-existence, existence cannot come. Not possible at all. So this is the sum total of what we have studied so far, which is which is very, very important, and which is very, very it's very, very important to understand. It's very, very crucial to see this. And then why can't we say out of Sat existence, Sat can come? That we will be taking that part up now in detail, because the whole contention is Sat doesn't come. Sat simply is, and it happens to be you. You are that Sat. There is no going and coming in the Sat at all. There is no going and coming. There is no production. Sat is not a production. Like Broadway productions, Broadway is opening up, we hear, because the pandemic, everybody is getting vaccinated, so people can go see their shows and plays. So it is opening, it's like a production is there. No, there is no production here. It simply is, because it is not a product. And anything that comes out of Sat, we have to have our hands like this. We have to have our hands in permanent apostrophes, because the coming is as though. It is not a product, because then there will be two Sats. And just before, we have seen, what have we seen? We have seen that there is only one Sat, and that too non-dually one Sat. And so therefore, nothing can come. There is no coming, there is no going. And then where does it leave us? It leaves us with some, what should I say, with some more, a few more subtle points to deflate from this, from the standpoint of this nihilist Vainashika, the one who says there is nothing. Nothing is the truth of the universe. Nothing is the truth of me. Nothing is the truth of you. Nothing is the truth of Bhagavan. All that is there is nothing. I saw one I saw one greeting card joke, and so on the front of it, there were all these monks wishing the Dalai Lama a very happy birthday. So they were all singing "Happy Birthday, Dalai Lama," and then you open the card, and then Dalai Lama has opened, and then they're giving him a big present, one big box wrapped up. And so he opens the box and his hand goes through because it has nothing in it. And so he says, "Oh, it's nothing. It's what I always wanted." So, it's like that. So there is no such thing as nothing. Even to say nothing, it is you feel shy to say I am nothing, because in fact that feeling that I am nothing is what takes me to the spiritual road. That is why I leave everything behind and catch hold of the Dharma Marga, the spiritual road. Why? In order to feel accepted, in order to understand where this non acceptance, this sense of non acceptance is coming from. And there is this approval seeking. And in order to query that, I take to a life of some spirituality. And then what? Having studied nihilism, Vainashika, Vainashika Mata, for so many years, what is the conclusion? You are nothing. Arre, I was better off before I came into this. I was better off with my small insecurities, with my small tears, with my small hesitancies, and with my small fears. I was okay. Now here I have so many years of study, and then after the study, what is this incongruent understanding that I am nothing. In fact, if this nothingness was acceptable to me, then I would not seek to study it. And because this nothingness, this feeling that I am no good is unacceptable, that's why I try to remove it. And so therefore this Bauddha, this Shunyavada means this particular expression of this nothingness in as a philosophy. This philosophy of nihilism is not in keeping with human aspirations. Not at all. Because the human aspiration is to feel wanted, feel whole, feel loved, feel like one belongs to the universe, one belongs to Bhagavan, one is nay, one with Bhagavan. That oneness is what one seeks. One does not seek nothingness. In fact, one is sick of the void. One is sick of disconnection. One is sick of feeling that one doesn't matter. One never mattered in one's family. One never mattered in one's circle of friends. What circle? There was no circle to begin with. And then one doesn't matter anywhere. That is the feeling. And so, for that feeling, one comes to some kind of, one looks into being a sadhaka, a seeker. You see, if one is a seeker, one cannot be infinitely seeking. That is a travesty. Seeking infinitely is a travesty. So, what to do? Seek the infinite as yourself. That is Sat. So, instead of seeking infinitely, seek the infinite. So, don't become an infinite seeker. Grammatically, we change it to be the seeker of the infinite. A small change, a big cognitive shift. And this is where we are coming to, because you see this nihilism, this Vainashika Mata sounds somewhat like Vedanta, which is why Adi Shankara is spending a lot of time in its Khandanam. Khandanam means in its dismissal, total dismissal. He's unraveling it, like a small child. If the mother has left the knitting behind, it takes, and there's a nice feeling, you unravel the whole thing, and then the mother comes back and sees only yarn and all her work gone. How do I know this? Because this was my personal experience when I was small. I had done that. So this is something which is it was such a good feeling, just to unravel the entire sweater. There was a kind of a nice vibrational, rhythm there. And then it was just a whole full of colored yarns, the whole room was. And it was just fascinating. So that is what Adi Shankara is doing, line by line, word by word. He's unraveling this mata, and we are spending time over this primarily because there is some overlap. And what are the areas of overlap? Let us just review them slightly before we go further. They also say that the constituents ultimately do not exist. We also say that the constituents of anything, like legs of a table, ultimately what is their reality? Ultimately they are all sat, we say. They say they do not exist, nothing exists. We say they are all sat. So, and then the second commonality, the overlap, is the concept of mithya. Mithya means for them not real. For us also it means not real, because sat is real. But for them, there is no Sat. There is only Mithya, 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 Mithya. And then what? Then that Mithya itself becomes Sat for them. This is a problem. This is a very, very big problem. And that's why we are spending time, here, looking at this. Looking at this thoroughly, so that we don't get, there is no confusion. And so therefore this confusion um, has to go. And that's the reason we are going to look for it. We're going to take this in a slight detail. It's almost there. We are almost there. We have two or three arguments to refute, because this Vainashika is a very tenacious fellow. and and in this tenacity, all the ignorance of everything comes forth, and then they are destroyed. Okay, so let us look at the bhashya. Hold on, where are we? Okay, so if you are following the Sanskrit bhashya, we are on the top of page 7. If you are following the English bhashya, I'm not quite sure. I think it is somewhere around page 63. 60, yeah, 62, bottom of page 62, and the top of page 63. Okay, yeah. So now let us see the tenacity of this person. Akshepa. What does the person say? The person, just get the thread from yesterday. Atha tad asti avayava vyatiriktam vastu bhutam tatha cha sati abhyupagama virodha. Abhyupagama virodha means this cannot be accepted. This is not possible, because you are contradicting yourself. You are contradicting yourself. And how are you contradicting yourself? You are contradicting yourself because you say, first of all, you say the seed does not exist. Okay, and then therefore the sprout also does not exist. Okay, and so you posit that from a non-existent seed, a non-existent sprout is coming, and then you come up with some new words. What are the new words? The new words are as follows: avayava and avayavi. Avayava means parts, and avayavi, that to which the parts belong. Avayavi, the wielder of the parts. And so the constituents, and then the that which holds the constituents. This is what you have been saying. And then now you say that, what if the constituents also get destroyed? No, because the same logic applies here to the constituents also. Because if the seed itself is not there, then the constituents also are not there according to your philosophy. The constituents themselves have further constituents, and then he's going to say that further and further and further constituents are there, and so therefore this is not a possibility. So now this is where we pick up the bhashya. So now he's going to come up with a new theme. He says, let us talk about empirical existence on the level of the transactional reality. And the Buddhist word for the transactional reality is samvritti. This is used a lot even in the Mandukya Karika. Gaudapadacharya uses the word samvritti in order to make them understand what we are talking about, because this is the Buddhist lingo. Samvritti. Samvritti means laukika darshanat, whatever you see on the empirical level, which doesn't have an absolute existence, is called samvritti. So then he brings up this new issue. Atha
अथ
samvritya
संवृत्या
abhyupagatam
अभ्युपगतम्
bija samsthana rupam
बीजसंस्थानरूपम्
उपमृद्यते
उपमृद्यते
iti chet.
इति चेत्.
Yeah, so he says, let us look at it. What if we say that the the seed is destroyed empirically? What about that? See, now this is why it is so confusing, because we also say empirically things come into birth, take birth, and things get destroyed. But their empirical and our empirical are slightly different, you know. And this is not the place to see how. That will require a longer study of the Bauddha Mata, but maybe some other time, some other place we can see this. But right now, suffice it to say that for them, empirical world means a kind of a micro universe of non-existence, which connects with the big absolute non-existence. This is what we can say. Probably I'm murdering the philosophy, but that's okay for right now. This is all we can just sort of leave it here. Okay. So he says, he means the nihilist here, imagined by Adi Shankara. He says, samvritya abhyupagatam bija samsthana rupam upamridyate. So why not say that empirically that which is the seed is destroyed? Iti chet means what if. And then the Siddhanti Adi Shankara replies with the Vedanta, with talking about Vedanta, ka iyam
का इयम्
samvrittirnama
संवृत्तिर्नाम
kimasau abhavah
किमसौ अभावः
उत भावः
उत भावः
इति
इति
यदि
यदि
अभावः
अभावः
दृष्टान्तभावः
दृष्टान्तभावः
अथ भावः
अथ भावः
तथापि न अभावात्
अभावात्
अंकुरोत्पत्तिः
अंकुरोत्पत्तिः
बीज
बीज
अवयेभ्यः हि
अवयवेभ्यः हि
अंकुरोत्पत्तिः.
अंकुरोत्पत्तिः.
So Adi Shankara asked the question, you know what? What is this samvritti? Ka iyam samvritti? What is this samvritti that you talk about? No, I already told you it is the empirical, the empirical non-existence of things on the empirical level. Then Adi Shankara says, I have one more question for you. Is this samvritti existent or non-existent? If it is existent, then it is then We don't need to, I just say, come over to our side, because that is exactly what we are talking about. We are talking about a dependent reality. If that is what you mean by samvritti, is a dependent reality which is dependent on sat, which is non separate from sat, which resolves into sat. If that is what you're talking about as samvritti, bro, come over to our side. This is what Adi Shankara would say if he knew the regular modern lingo. But if you say, supposing you say that samvritti is non-existent, then from a non-existent seed the sprout cannot come. And besides, what is the connection of a non-existent samvritti to the non-existent seed? What is the connection? Oh, they got married on such and such a date. Today is their wedding anniversary. That doesn't make any sense, because both are non existent. So then, from that seed which is non-existent, we have already seen the sprout cannot come. Therefore, what? Yadi abhava. So if you say it is abhava, then you know what? Then drishtanta abhava. You don't have an example, even in your samvritti, even in your empirical, your idea of empiricism. Is there an example of something non existent giving a rise to something else which is also non existent? Give me one example. Doesn't matter. I have all day. I will wait till you come up with at least one example of something that comes out of non existence. So then, you have no example, drishtanta abhava. So because there is there is no example, you are tongue tied, then I will conclude for you atha bhava, meaning therefore we are only talking of existence. If we are talking of the seed as having existence, then tathapi, therefore, na abhavat ankurotpattihi. Out of non-existence, out of a non-existent seed, what cannot come? Ankura, a sprout cannot come. Bija avayavebhyah hi ankurotpattihi. So we need the bija, we need the avayava, we need the parts, all of these things we need
Parts.
for the sprout to come forth. So, you know, what does the person do? What does the nihilist slash vainashika do at this point? Actually, he should hide his face and go away, but instead he asks another question. Avayavaha api
अवयवाः अपि
upamridyante
उपमृद्यन्ते
iti chet.
इति चेत्
So he says, well, wait, I have an idea. Forget I said samvritti, forget the empiricism, forget bija, forget the non existent seed, forget the non existent sprout. So then what? Let us just concentrate on the avayava. The seed has a skin, the seed has certain other constituents that make the seed a seed. And what if we say that in the process of the sprout coming, the what is that? The avayavas, the constituents of the seed get destroyed. We have to admire the person's tenacity. We have to admire the person's tenacity, because this point has already been addressed when Adi Shankara pointed out that the birth of the sprout is only on account of the seed and its constituents which flow into the sprout. And as I said yesterday, just catch hold of the lunch box or a lunch plate of a raw food person. eating alpha sprouts or eating sprouted mung beans, then you see the seed and the sprout at the same time. Both are there. You see the constituents of the seed. You see the seed that is split. You see the sprout coming out. So all of them are there. So Sat, 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 Sat all the way. And then, so therefore what? So it is, so therefore what? So the whole question of the constituents of the seed being destroyed, is moot. Why? First of all, nothing is destroyed. It is all Sat. It only transforms. Secondly, I have already told you that that which does not exist cannot be destroyed. A non existent seed cannot be destroyed. Only if something exists can be destroyed. And so, therefore, therefore, let us see the samadhanam here. Na
न
tat avayaveshu
तद् अवयवेषु
tulyatvat
तुल्यत्वात्
yatha
यथा
vainashikanam
वैनाशिकानां
बीजसंस्थानरूपः
बीजसंस्थानरूपः
अवयवी
अवयवी
नास्ति
नास्ति
तथा
तथा
अवयवाः अपि नास्ति
अवयवाः अपि नास्ति
इति तेषामपि
इति तेषामपि
उपमर्दन अनुपपत्तिः.
उपमर्दन अनुपपत्तिः.
So patient Adi Shankara is. It's very beautiful here. So he says that, what is this thing? Na, no. Why? Avayavayeshu tulyatvat. Tulyatvat means these avayavas which you say are destroyed are as non-existent as the seed, and what else? As the sprout. so so then we don't have to discuss the constituents separately, do we now? So if I say, for example, if I say that, oh, I had cooked a wonderful meal this afternoon for lunch, I cooked a wonderful meal. And then what happened? The whole thing got turned. I was trying to take it off the stove, the hand slipped, and everything went on the floor, and the whole meal got destroyed. If I say that, then if you were to ask me, what about the garam masala that you put in the meal? Did that also get destroyed? Of course, because it is all the same thing. Same thing. If the whole meal itself is not there, you cannot then ask, what about the spices that you put in the meal? So the whole thing is gone. So therefore, avayaveshu tulyatvat. Because the avayava is, according to you, is as non-existent as the seed, as the sprout, and so you cannot destroy non-existence. Upamardhanam means destruction. So yatha vainashikanam bija samsthana rupaha avayavi nasti. Just as for these vainashikas, there is no such thing called seed, and then therefore from there it logically follows that avayavaha api nasti. The constituents also enjoy the same non-existence that is enjoyed by the seed. Very, very interesting. And then iti teshamapi upamardana anupapattihi. Upamardana anupapattihi means that the impossibility of them getting destroyed is very much in keeping with whatever we have been seeing. Otherwise, what will happen? He points out, bija avayavanam api sukshma avayavaha tad avayavanam api अन्ये सूक्ष्मतर अवयवाः इति एवं प्रसंगस्य अनिवृत्तेः सर्वत्र उपमर्दन अनुपपत्तिः. So he says, if you say that we have to discuss the destruction of the parts of the seed, the constituents of the seed separately, because you see every avayava has avayava, that which holds the constituents. And so the constituents themselves have certain other parts, and those parts have parts, and then we'll be here all day and all night, because bija avayavanam api sukshma avayavaha. So even the constituents of the seeds, for the constituents of the seeds, bija avayavanam api sukshma avayavaha, and there are subtle constituents, tad avayavanam api, and for those subtle constituents, anye sukshmatara avayavaha. Now we are getting into the atomic level. Atoms, molecules, particles, these are all constituents, these are all avayava. So tesham avayavaha, tesham avayavaha, tesham avayavaha, their parts, their parts, their parts will be here in a infinite regress. Iti evam prasangasya anivrittehe. Anivrittehe means no possibility of coming back from that. So this prasanga, this situation is that of infinite regress. You keep going in a circle, and you keep destroying something, destroying something, destroying something, etc., etc. And then what? And then he concludes, sarvatra upamardana anupapattihi. So whether you are talking of an atom, not possible to destroy, whether you're talking of a molecule, not possible to destroy. No, nothing, nothing can be destroyed in this universe. Even the physicists tell us so. You can't take out anything and you can't add anything. This is what is Sat. This is what we are talking about. And so, therefore, what? Sarvatra, every single place we look, upamardana anupapattihi. There is no possibility of destruction. Sadbuddhi,
तद्बुद्धि
sadbuddhi anuvrittehe,
तद्बुद्धि अनुवृत्तेः
sattva
तत्त्व
anivrittischa
निवृत्तिश्च
iti sadvadinam
इति सद्वादिनां
satah eva
ततः एव
sadutpattihi
तदुत्पत्तिः
setsyati.
चेत्स्यति.
Yeah, so he says that now, so there is no destruction, no destruction at all. And so the constituents are non-existent, even though the Vainashika says the constituents are non-existent all the way. That is why we say that the constituents cannot be destroyed. Sarvatra upamardana anupapattihi. And then, so then we keep on getting into more and more subtler and subtler avayavas. So at every stage, you know you have to arrive at an asat buddhi, non-existent seed, non-existent constituents of the non-existent seed, and the non-existent constituents of the constituents of the non-existent seed, and the non-existent constituents of the constituents of the constituents of the non-existent seed. This is what we'll have to keep on doing. So asat buddhi, meaning the non-existence cognition, can never be arrived at. You know why? Simply because the presence of the cognizer is there all the way. So when I say the non-existence of the non-existent constituents of the non-existent seed, then I am ratifying and advertising, certifying my own existence all the way. This is what Adi Shankara is talking about here. And Sadbuddhi anuvrittehe. Sadbuddhi in here is, Sadbuddhi means is cognition. Is cognition inheres all the way. Seed is, skin of the seed is, and then the subtle information of the seed that is coded into the seed, the software of the seed which makes it into a mango tree or an orange tree or an avocado tree is. atom is, particle is, molecule is. So it is buddhi, asti, 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 all the way. Is cognition, is cognition, is cognition, all the way. And we don't have to arrive at is cognition, because the is cognition advertises itself as I, always. And so therefore, so then sat buddhi anuvrittehe, because the sat buddhi flows, the is cognition flows all the way, all the way. And sattva anivrittischa, this sattva is undeniable. It is not possible to deny this sattva. And then further, iti sadvadinam satah eva sad utpattihi. So satah eva sad utpattihi means from sat alone everything comes. Sat is born, sat is quote unquote born of sat. Everything is sat. Setsyati, he will finally, it's finally arrived at. This is finally agreed upon. As what? From sat alone, whatever is has come is already there. And then what? So for the people who say this, what is that? There is no sat, then there is drishtanta abhava. Drishtanta abhava is there, because they have a problem. And there is drishtanta abhava. Why? Because they don't have an example. There is no example of how this, from this non-existent, whatever, you can't even name it. From this non-existence, we can say existence has come. There is no way to say it. And if they insist that whatever has come is also non-existent, then even that is equally silly. There is no way to understand that at all. So therefore, natu asadvadinam drishtantah asti asatah sad utpattehe. So for the Vainashikas, who are asadvadins, meaning they only talk about non-existence. So for these non-existent speakers, for these believers of non-existence, then drishtantah asti asatah sad utpattehe mrit pindat ghatotpattihi drishyate sadvadinam. Whereas for us who are sadvadis, who talk about is cognition, we have an example: our pot and clay. Enough. We don't need any other example other than pot and clay. We don't need anything at all. Drishyate, it is seen for everyone. Tad bhave bhavat, tad abhave cha abhavat. So we see this. When the clay is there, in the presence of clay, pot comes. And when there is no clay, let's say the pot maker, the potter runs out of clay, and then hasn't gone to dig up some more clay from somewhere, wherever, from a quarry, or some place from the forest. Then on the day that there is no clay, no pots come. Simple. This is very, very easy. And so therefore what? So therefore we have to look at this very, very clearly, and understand that for the people who posit that there is no that there is zero, everything has come from zero, it is just kapola kalpitam. Kapola means skull. This is the problem. When the skull starts to have thoughts, actually what is inside the skull should start thinking. That is the brain cells. But here the skull is having thoughts, and this is a very big problem. And so this is called kapola kalpitam. Because even if the asadvadins, the people who are nihilists, say that we depend on our reasoning, there should be, in an inference, there should be a postulate. There should be a vyapti, an invariable concomitance that is seen, like even the fire on the mountain. Fire on the mountain, nobody sees. Parvato Vanhiman is the conclusion. The mountain is fiery is the conclusion. And why is this conclusion? This conclusion comes because what is seen? Dhumatvat. The smoke is seen. Smoke is seen. And when you see the smoke, then what do? You infer the fire. And where is the invariable concomitance? Where is the vyapti? Pakashalavat. Because you have to say, just like in my kitchen. In my kitchen, I had an accident. And then what happened as a result of the accident? And then there was fire, but then there was smoke. There was smoke. So wherever there is smoke, there is fire. If this is your postulate, if this is your inference, then it should have an example, it should have a vyapti. Vyapti means the principle of invariable concomitance. So Parvato Vanhiman, the mountain must be having fire. You don't see the fire. What do you see? Smoke. So therefore, you come with the hypothesis wherever, not a hypothesis, a postulate. Wherever there is smoke, there must be fire. How do you know that? Just like what happened in our kitchen. In the kitchen, something was left on, and the person forgot that something was left on. And then what? Everywhere there was smoke, and then also there was fire. See, the other way around doesn't work. Wherever there is fire, there need not be smoke. Like in a well conducted homa, there is fire, there should not be smoke. Okay. And then but the other way around is very, very possible. Wherever there is smoke, there is fire. But for that we need the example. Here there is no example, there is no vyapti. There is no vyapti. So then, like even when we say something like every egg turns into a chicken, even that is not true. That is also not true. Wherever there is an egg, then chicken comes. That is not true, because they have all these modern, I don't know what they are called, some kind of eggs, which don't hatch at all. And then I had the dubious distinction of going to, giving a blessing to a poultry farm. First, I made sure that no killing was happening, and then I said, "Okay, let me see what's going on." And then, the eggs were there; they were all under incubation, and these artificially hatched chicken were also walking around. And then I asked a very pertinent question. Why are they not sitting on the eggs? That is their job. This should be instinctual. They should see an egg and rush and go and sit on it. They said they don't know what to do. If we can't even let them too close to the eggs, because they peck at it and then they destroy their own egg. And that is because that intelligence has not has not gone in these artificially hatched hens. They don't have that instinct anymore. That instinct to sit on the egg has been bred out. And so like this, you cannot even say every egg they will lead to a chick. So then, if that also cannot be said with uncertain, with any level of certainty, then how can you postulate that from a non egg a chick will come? According to the Vainashika, no egg will lead to a chick. There is no drishtanta. Mritpindat ghatotpattihi drishyate. Whereas we see the pot being made in front of our eyes from the clay. We see the clay transforming into pot. For the Sadvadins or Satkaryavadins, Bhavat Bhavah, Abhavacha Abhavah. Ghata Ghatabhave Mrid Bhavah, Ghata Abhave cha Mrid Abhavah. So this is something which is very interesting. Ghata bhave, in the presence of the pot, mrid bhavah, the clay's presence can be inferred. And then ghata abhave, in the absence of the pot, mrid bhavaha, the clay's presence still is. So the clay is invariable, pot is variable. This is Anvaya Vyatireka methodology. And so wherever there is pot, there is clay. Pot is absent, clay still is. So the cause is Sat, which inheres the Karya, the effect. So Karya is therefore Mithya. This is what has been, this is what is posited by Adi Shankara. Further, let us see. यदि
यदि
अभावादेव
भावादेव
घटः
घटः
उत्पद्येत
उत्पद्येत
घटार्थिना
घटार्थिना
मृत्पिण्डः
मृत्पिण्डः
नोपादीयेत
नोपादीयेत
न उपादीयेत
न उपादीयेत
अभावशब्दबुद्धि
अभावशब्दबुद्धि
अनुवृत्तिश्च
अनुवृत्तिश्च
घटादौ
घटादौ
प्रसज्येत
प्रसज्येत
न तु
न तु
एव
एव
तदस्ति
तदस्ति
अतः
अतः
न असतः
न असतः
सदुत्पत्तिः.
तदुत्पत्तिः.
Yeah. So, abhava shabda, oh, one more thing. Yadi abhavadeva ghataha utpadyeta. If the pot, for instance, were to come out of absence, then the potter will not need any clay at all. Na upadiyeta ghatarthina. So, ghatarthina, ghatarthi means the one who is desirous of a pot. The one who is desirous of a pot, then he will not be going in search of a pot. Correct? In search of clay. Because if the pot can come without clay, then all the potters will be out of a job, poor fellows. They will not have any work at all. They will all be useless, unemployed, and then they will have to find some other thing to do, because pot comes just without clay means that then there is no possibility at all. And then so then what happens? So this doesn't, so why would we need the clay? If pot is born of abhava, then we should not need the clay at all. And here, Adi Shankara visualizes that the Vainashika is fine tuning the argument. The Vainashikas are fine tuning their argument. How? By pointing out a small thing. Let us say, the Vainashika says, when we say abhava, we are only talking of not is on a cognitive level. Now, this is really laughable because, what do you mean by not is on a cognitive, conceptual level? So, that just doesn't make any sense at all. Cognitive, conceptual level of not is, and then the actual level of not is. What is the connection? What is the what is the relationship? No possibility at all. And so therefore, you are just hiding in the words. Abhava shabda buddhi. Abhava shabda buddhi means from the abhava, from the non-existence, cognitive non-existence. We are only talking of cognitive non-existence. So there is no such thing called cognitive non-existence. And then, which is opposed to ghata. We don't have such a thing at all. There is no such thing called cognitive non-existence, so we can get that totally out of the way. And then, This is just you're playing a mind game. You're playing a game of some kind of an ideational game where you have nothing better to do except to sit and parse words, yeah, cut up words because there's nothing better to do. This is some kind of an armchair philosophy of what if, what if, what if, because that's what this person has been saying. The nihilist is keeping on hiding behind iti chet, iti chet, iti chet. Iti chet is Sanskrit for what if, what if, what if. And so all your what ifs are not going to take away the point that out of non existence, existence cannot come. And then, so if out of non existence the pot can come, then what? Then the poor potter will be out of a job. There will be no there will be no need for any kind of clay. So you cannot hide behind this non existence. Na tu etad asti atah na asatah sad utpatti. And then the last point he takes. And then what does he say? Yadyapi ahuhu
यद्यपि आहुः
mrid buddhihi
मृद्बुद्धिः
घट buddhehe
घटबुद्धेः
निमित्तम iti
निमित्तमिति
mrid buddhihi
मृद्बुद्धिः
घट बुद्धेहे कारणम
घटबुद्धेः कारणम्
उच्यते
उच्यते
न तु परमार्थतः
न तु परमार्थतः
एवं
एवं
मृद्घटो वा अस्ति इति
मृद्घटो वा अस्ति इति
तदपि
तदपि
मृद्बुद्धिः
मृद्बुद्धिः
विद्यमाना
विद्यमाना
विद्यमानायाः
विद्यमानायाः
एव
एव
घटबुद्धेः कारणम् इति
घटबुद्धेः कारणमिति
न असतः सद् उत्पत्तिः.
न असतः सदुत्पत्तिः.
Yeah, so one more mind game here. So he says, excuse me. So he says that let us look at some kind of a concept that is dear to us. What is your concept? Let us say there are two kinds of cognitions. First is, this is really a funny cognition. It's a funny concept. First is pot cognition, and the other one is what? Clay cognition. So the first one is Sanskrit ghata buddhi, and then the other one clay buddhi, mrid buddhi. And then what shall we say? The clay cognition is there, and separately the pot cognition is also there. And then what? But really speaking, neither pot nor clay exist. This is their contention, which is very, very funny. Ghata buddhi is there, clay cognition is there, pot cognition is there, but there is no object of this cognition. And then what about cause effect? Let us say that the clay cognition is the cause of pot cognition, conceptually, cognitively speaking. At this point, everybody should need some, headache medicine. Really, this is where their thinking is. If you don't have a headache by this point, then you will have it soon. Okay, that's why we are not going to dwell on this for too long. And then, so their contention is both are not there in reality. Finally, it is all asat. And then, so Adi Shankara says, therefore, even if you talk about buddhi, asataha na sat. So, because even if you talk about cognition, from the absence of cognition, cognition cannot come. You require to have is cognition even to say that there is zero cognition. Is not cognition is dependent upon is cognition. So you require is buddhi even to have a conceptualization or an ideation of pot buddhi, clay buddhi, etc. You require first buddhi is buddhi. And obviously you don't have any buddhi at all, because that is why you keep on harping on this. You're not using the buddhi, Bhagavan given buddhi, because you are yourself confused whether the buddhi exists or not. So if the buddhi first should exist, cognition should exist in order for it to qualify clay pot, etc. If the cognition itself is in jeopardy, then we cannot even talk about this any further. Let us not even say anything at all. And this is how he murders the argument. And then of course this person is not ready to go yet. And then so one more question comes up. What is that? Mridghata buddhayoho
मृद्घटबुद्धयोः
निमित्त नैमित्तिकतया
निमित्तनैमित्तिकतया
आनन्तर्यमात्रम्
आनन्तर्यमात्रम्
न तु
न तु
कार्यकारणत्वम् इति चेत्.
कार्यकारणत्वम् इति चेत्.
So now he has brought two more words. Nimitta, one is the cause of the other, nimitta, and then mrid is the nimitta, respectively we have to take, and ghata mrid buddhi is the nimitta, is the cause of ghata buddhi, which is the result effect. So mrid buddhi, clay cognition, is the cause of pot cognition. That is, if we say, take it that you just said, then all of it depends on is buddhi. Let us say that there is buddhi, which is also false, and then there is somewhere floating around clay buddhi, which is false, and then there is pot buddhi, which is, needless to say, false. And then let us say they are all floating around in some kind of a, maybe a chronological order, but let us not have this cause effect relationship. You see, the Buddha has a problem with the cause effect relationship, because primarily because then they will get back to one sat. So if we say, shirt, cause of shirt, fabric, cause of fabric, yarn, cause of yarn, fibers, cause of fibers, molecules, atoms, then we just go back to that one thing, Brahman, Sat, you. They don't want that. So then let's not establish causality. Why should we worry about causality? Let's just say that they are all just floating around. Anantarya matram. One comes after the another anantaryam. And then, let's not have any cause effect relationship. And Adi Shankara responds, Na
न
buddhinam
बुद्धीनां
nairantarye
नैरन्तर्ये
गम्यमाने
गम्यमाने
वैनाशिकानां
वैनाशिकानां
बहिर्दृष्टान्त अभावात्.
बहिर्दृष्टान्त अभावात्.
Yeah, so it's well and good to talk about not is buddhi being the cause of is buddhi, or whatever you are saying, or is buddhi, is not buddhi, pot buddhi, clay buddhi, is cognition, is not cognition, clay cognition, pot cognition are all swimming in the head. Show that they are unconnected. You don't have an example to show it outside. What is happening inside the head, is a solipsistic reality. It's your own reality. It is nothing to do with what is even if it's on the level of the empirical reality. Show it. Show the proof. Show me how this translates, how there is only non causality because of non existence. You show me this on the empirical reality. They are not able to do that. They are not able to do that. It's just one series of mistakes, like the like the mistake that, one mistake and then second mistake. And then, the like the brahmachari, one brahmachari was there in the Coimbatore ashram. And then what did he do? He was just keeping on walking around, and then he saw one this thing he saw one rope. And then he had heard, rope snake, rope snake, rope snake, rope snake, rope snake. And then he picked it up. It turned out to be snake, actually. It was a small, harmless garden snake. It was the first time, perhaps the only time, the snake did not turn into rope. In fact, the rope, the quote unquote rope, turned into snake. It was the reverse aropa. That's why it's called aropa, because you have to bring the word rope in. Yeah, we have to rope in the word rope. That's why it's called aropa. And so then, so like this, the first mistake was what? The thinking that the snake was indeed a rope. The second mistake was picking it up and trying to take it to the. He was in charge of the cow stables, so he thought it will be useful to tie up the cows. So he's using this snake to try to get this garden snake to tie up the cows. And so the second mistake was thinking that this rope had some kind of a utilitarian value. So this nimitta, naimittika, not karana, not karya, not effect, not cause, is all just in your big head. This is just, where is the drishtanta for this? There should be some connection. The whole world thrives and runs on connection. In fact, people love it when some things happen. They say, "Oh my God, I was thinking of you, and then I got an email from you. I was thinking of you, and you appeared." How wonderful is that? That is the connection on which the world runs. The world does not run on disconnection. One is hungry for connections. One is hungry for this cause effect everywhere. One is hungry to see that my words, my works in the world are contributing to something. They are having an effect. They're producing some change somewhere, somehow, something. And this is the reason for waking up in the morning. If everything was just floating around like a bunch of unrelated molecules, and just what is the reason to get out of bed? I'm sorry, non bed. What is the reason for the non body to get out of the non bed? No reason. So therefore, there is no example for this. Give me the example for this unconnectivity. There is no example for not connection. No, and there is no such thing as there is no such thing as some kind of a this what you call nimitta naimittika bhava. It is not acceptable. It is not acceptable at all. And therefore what? Therefore, uh, so therefore, the- atah
अतः
kutasthu khalu somya
उतस्तु खलु सौम्य
एव स्यात्.
एवं स्यात्
Yeah, sorry, evam syat
एवं स्यात्
iti hovaच.
इति होवाच
Katham
कथं
kena prakarena
येन प्रकारेण
asatah
ततः
sajjayeta iti.
तज्जायेत इति
असतः
ततः
सद् उत्पत्तौ
तद् उत्पत्तौ
न कश्चित्
न कश्चित्
अपि
अपि
दृष्टान्तप्रकारः
दृष्टान्तप्रकारः
इति अभिप्रायः
अस्ति इति अभिप्रायः
अस्ति इति अभिप्रायः.
अस्ति इति अभिप्रायः
एवम्
एवम्
असद्वादिपक्षम्
असद्वादिपक्षम्
उन्मथ्य
उन्मथ्य
उपसंहरति.
उपसंहरति
सत्त्वेव सौम्य
तत्त्वेव सौम्य
इदमग्रे आसीत्.
इदमग्रे आसीत्
iti
इति
swapakshasiddhim.
स्वपक्षसिद्धिम्.
Yeah, so again he repeats the words of the Shruti because he is concluding this right now. Hey Somya, O dear one, kutasthu khalu, from which proof, from which means of knowledge can one ever accept that from non existence what is existent will come? How can one accept? This is, as I said, a rhetorical question which negates the possibility of anything coming from Asat because A, there is no precedence for it, B, there is no example for it, C, it is totally contrary to human experience and human wants, human desires. So, evam asadvadi paksham unmathya. Unmathya means churning, having churned it completely. Churned what? Asadvadi paksham. Mata means the opinions, the theology of the nihilist. Having churned it completely, upasamharati, kills it totally, the Shruti, destroys it completely. Swapaksha siddhim means the Shastra sums up its own view. Sattu eva asit. This Jagat, before it came into being as we know it, was Sat alone. And so this looks like a good place to stop. Next week we will take up with this nano business again because there is, the person is not ready to shut up. He has an interesting, they have an interesting argument. What is that? You say that Sat can come out of Sat. How can Sat come out of Sat? Sat cannot come out of Sat. And why can't Sat come out of Sat? Because we don't see one pot coming out of another pot. And so on. They will say that they can take rest. We can also take rest. Okay. So this is a nice thing to do on in America. It is Independence Day. To focus on moksha is very, very good. Wonderful. Yeah. ॐ पूर्णमदः पूर्णमिदं पूर्णात् पूर्णमुदच्यते पूर्णस्य पूर्णमादाय पूर्णमेवावशिष्यते ॐ शान्तिः 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 हरिः ॐ श्रीगुरुभ्यो नमः हरिः ॐ. Any questions? You can unmute yourself and ask, or you can type in the chat pod.
Swamiji, I have these Asatwadis, how do they account for themselves? Like
They say it's just a bunch of molecules. What is the self? The self is the body falls apart, self is the mind falls apart. And then what is that? The witness also falls apart when there is nothing to witness, according to them. It all falls apart. And then knowing the nothingness of everything is moksha for them. Their moksha is being, I don't even know how to say it, being one with nothingness. It is just very not understandable to us.
They don't get depressed thinking like that?
I don't know. We'll have to ask them.
We have to ask them. Yes.
I think in a way it is relieving for them because they don't have to, get into anything. You see, there is, for most people, as I said, dealing with Sat means dealing with Ishvara. And Ishvara is a scary being, especially if one has not interrogated one's own issues, authority issues, coming from the primary caregivers. That is what one has to interrogate. That is what one has to resolve. And if that is not resolved, then and then plus on top of that, in most traditions, especially mainstream tradition, God is a concept that is pushed down the throat with a stick from childhood. and then it's full of and there is no questioning allowed in many of the religions. This is how we believed, this is how our father and mother believed, and so don't ask questions, just believe, shut up. This is where there is no conversation possible. And so it is a belief based traditions, there is no conversation possible. And so people are put off by this concept of God which they have heard. And then that is the collective, the socialization problem. And then the second problem is the socialization problem is the first problem. Second problem is that there's an individual problem of not of having parental issues. And so and if the parent everybody has parental issues, there is nothing wrong with that, but that has to be seen as that. If it's not seen as that, if it's not resolved, if it's not inquired into, then it is what is called the psychological transference is made onto this concept of God. And so it's very relieving when you say the whole thing is nothing, nothing at all. Because there's nothing particular to believe in. Because you see, these are the people who are hurt by the systems of beliefs. And so here there's nothing to believe in. Nobody is watching over you. You don't have to be careful. You just have to be ethical. Karma is there. They do believe in karma. That also is because there is rebirth and all this. They believe in that somehow. So karma is there. And then this is what it is. So, but you see, this Buddha that Adi Shankara is talking about, there may not be a corollary to modern Buddhism, because modern Buddhism is very, very nuanced. You have the Theravada and on one continuum, and then on the other hand you have Zen, which is very close to Vedanta. So when we talk about Buddhas and Vainashikas, this is some ancient version of this particular nihilism that we are seeing. Okay, yeah. So next one, is it possible that the followers have misunderstood Buddha? Some Hindus consider Buddha, yeah, why some Hindus? All Hindus consider Buddha as an avatara. Yes, it is very possible. And this is very common with any religion that has a founder. When the founder departs, the followers flounder. This is what happens. Because, each one hears through their own interpretation. Each one hears through their own interpretation. So that's why it is possible. Because I believe there is one conversation when the Buddha was asked about the existence of God, he remained silent. He could have remained silent for so many reasons, but then they assumed that it is not there or something like that. He could have remained silent for so many reasons, so that is something. One more question: if they believe in karma, maybe they do believe in cause effect in a way. They don't call it cause effect, they call it naimittika nimitta, and as though cause and as though effect, which is all just based in some kind of a cognition. And to be freed of that cognition is nirvana, according to the ancient Buddhists. Yeah, that's what he said. Ramana Maharshi said there is only Atma. Yeah, correct. That's what we also say. This is what is Vedanta. Okay. All the best. May you have a happy day. Om.